There's different parts of the aloe vera plant. There's the inner leaf and there's the outer leaf. Years ago, people were using the outer leaf, the irritant portion of the aloe vera plant. They were using it and even turning it into capsules that could be taken as a natural laxative. You see the problem with that.
You are listening to The Dr. Haley Show, the podcast dedicated to helping you optimize your health. Each episode, there will be an interview or a message to help you discover better health. We will be featuring health radicals on the show to bring new ideas to the table, as well as doubling down on key fundamentals to support you living your best life. Your host is no other than the founder of Haley Nutrition, Dr. Michael Haley.
Okay. I'm going to assume everything's good. And I don't need this window open anymore. Let me make some adjustments. I got a lot of questions coming in through the email. I don't see any coming through the chat yet, but that's okay. I'm glad you are here. And first and foremost, I want to thank everybody. Let me go a little taller here. I want to thank everybody. We've definitely had our share of challenges. And when I say we've had some challenges in the past 6 months, we've had some challenges. But we got through it. And from the beginning, it's one of those things we knew we would, and we expected it to work out for our benefit. We didn't know we would be out for so long. We thought we'd be back a lot faster. But challenges are okay. They're good in life. They stretch us. They help us to improve. And we knew that would be the case. And indeed, we have a better product, a better solid company position here. We're able to handle more customers, larger volume, lots of possibilities, lots of room for growth now. But we're still going to have our challenges in the next couple weeks, some of which I'll talk about as I'm answering some of your questions here. And hi, Becky. Thank you. Can you turn up the volume? I don't think I can. Let's see. Yes, I can. By moving the microphone closer. Is that any better? Hopefully it is. In fact, let me pull up some of the questions that we've had so far. And because we've had a lot of the same things. And I'm going to start with the last one that came through, which I've seen a number of times. And if you had gotten the email because you're on the waiting list, some people were on the waiting list for 6 months, some people for a couple of weeks. But I sent it out with we wanted to give you a gift as a thank you for your patience, that being one of the tubes of the aloe cream, and we just wanted you to mention waiting list, and then we would know to include the free tube of cream. And a lot of people would reply to their order received and say, oh, I forgot to write waiting list. Can you add that to my order? We're just going to do it across the board for every order, knowing that the majority of them came from the waiting list, and there will be a little insert that explains that for the people that get it and say, what's this doing in there? So everyone's getting the aloe cream. The most common questions that we've had, well, first, the most common comments we had was thank you. We've gotten a lot of thank yous and a lot of great support. You people are amazing, and we're so grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As you're thanking us, we want to thank you right back. You've encouraged us and supported us. We're so happy that we can continue and pick up even 6 months later. But one of the common questions we had is, well, how do we know that the problem is fixed and that the aloe is good? You've had to throw out aloe. How do we know that the aloe is good? Why did you throw it out? Our previous supply, we kind of got a bad batch and we had to throw that out. And we also, in trying to work with the farmer for the next batch, they kind of decided it was time to hang it up and retire. So I worked with him And I want to thank that farmer, great guy, the one that came out of retirement. His kids had taken over, and the father helped us find a new supplier, which was one of his previous customers. And yes, they are growing the same variety of aloe vera, the Stockton variety. So we had contacted them and worked with them, and we got a whole freight container of aloe delivered from them, from our new supplier, that we had to throw away. And the question is, well, why'd you have to throw it away? And if they produced a batch you had to throw away, then how do we know you got it right this time? The throwing it away was due to a couple errors along the way. One of them was a confusion between Celsius and Fahrenheit. So the freezer container was set to 0 degrees Celsius, which is refrigeration temperature, when it was supposed to be 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Although we got that corrected, as soon as they got the container, the paperwork already said 0 degrees Celsius. So every step along the way, they would check the paperwork, and the paperwork never fully got corrected, although the freezer container did. So when they were moving the container, probably putting it on the ship in Guatemala, they said, oh, paperwork says 0 Celsius, and they reprogrammed the freezer container and set it to refrigeration, which probably would not have been a problem if it made it to us in a few days. But there was another paperwork error. I believe it was the shipping company that actually wrote the wrong container number off by 1 digit. One of the numbers was missing, or it had an extra digit or something like that. And that created a delay in customs for an additional few weeks. So our product was kept refrigerated for an extra few weeks, causing it to use up the shelf life. My wife and I drank it. We loved the product. It was great, but it didn't have any shelf life, which really means that when we tested it at the lab, the bacteria counts were higher than they were supposed to be. What? Your aloe has bacteria in it? If you go to the produce section and you buy raw fruits and vegetables, there's bacteria there. And if it is left there in the produce section too long, things rot and there's too much bacteria. And at some point, you have to throw it away. So we were nearing that point, and we knew the best thing to do was to throw it out and start over. So nothing wrong with the process at the farm. In fact, the laboratory said, actually, based on the strains that are here, I can tell they have a very clean operation. So we redid it. And then, yes, it arrived a while ago. Why did we wait another couple weeks before we were selling it? Because we had to get test results, and that can take another 7 to 10 days, or even longer when there's a holiday on Monday, which was the day we were supposed to get our results. And then the next day I had jury duty, so even though we got the results, there was nothing I could do about it. And then the next day our website was broken, and our shipping negotiated rates with FedEx expired because you only have 30 days to meet a volume, and we didn't meet that, so we had to redo that contract. A lot of challenges that we fixed in the past couple days. Now we're up and running. So no problem with the aloe. It's great. Yes, the aloe is deliciously healing. Let's look back at some of the other questions that have come through the email. Oh, why are there so little quantities available if you got a whole freight container full? We have a lot of aloe, but there's a lot of other things we need to ship. For instance, if you want buckets of aloe and you already have your bottles, no problem. We have plenty of buckets, and we're shipping those out as fast as the orders come in. I should say as fast as we can process the orders, because the orders are coming in faster than we can process them. But if you need empty bottles, we only have so much room for empty plastic bottles in our warehouse. We were running out. It just so happens that we got a delivery today of 1,200 more empty half-gallon bottles. So I adjusted the number of buckets that could be purchased with empty bottles. In the same way, well, what about the half-gallon bottles of frozen aloe vera? You know, it shows that you only have 10 2-packs left and 5 4-packs and a couple 8-packs, or by now maybe they're at zero already and out of stock. We have to ship those in styrofoam, and we only have so much room for storing hollow styrofoam in our warehouse. So as we're playing catch up, we had a big order of styrofoam, and that'll go out on Monday, and then they'll drop off new styrofoams that we'll pre-pack and fill with bottles and have them ready to stuff and ship. And for the next couple weeks, we can only order so much, and they build it and bring it over to us. It's actually recycled styrofoam, by the way, because isn't styrofoam bad? So they take recycled styrofoam, and then there's a shop down the street that they cut it and glue them together into the boxes that we put your aloe bottles in. So that's another one of the things. It's, that when it comes to bottles, it's a limiting factor. We only have so much room for hollow styrofoam containers in our warehouses. Unlimited number of buckets if you already have your bottles. And now we have plenty of bottles for people that need the empty bottles with their buckets. In Ireland, no, unfortunately, we cannot ship it to Ireland. In fact, that's another common question is, how come I can't order it to Canada? Because we used to ship to the United States and Canada. I cut Canada off about a week ago, temporarily. Nothing against Canada. I have to make sure that the Florida Panthers beat them in hockey first. No, it has nothing to do with that. The Florida Panthers and Edmonton, I believe, is now the Stanley Cup finals. So excited about that. But we switched providers from UPS to FedEx, and we have issues when it comes to duties and taxes and brokers. So there's a different process that we haven't figured out yet. We shipped our first box to Canada and it failed. So I'm shutting it off until we learn how to do that. And once we learn how to do it, the people that have reached out to me and said, how come I can't order? We'll contact you and make that happen first on a trial basis before opening our website up to Canada. And when we have some successful shipments to Canada, eventually we'll turn our website back on to Canada. Places like Ireland, they're just too far away, and shipping frozen products, it's just too difficult and too expensive. Yes, there are like overnight shipments all around the globe, but it gets very, very expensive, and you pay sometimes twice as much for the postage as you do for the product. And it's a lot of complicated paperwork, and it just doesn't make sense yet. The world's getting smaller eventually, but right now it doesn't make sense. Why should I order the bucket? Because especially if you have, it's the greenest option. It doesn't go in styrofoam. We don't have to fill up our warehouse with big hollow styrofoam containers. It's less styrofoam that ends up on the mountain. It's a greener solution. Why don't we use styrofoam? Because we want it to melt on the way to you, because it has to melt so you can redistribute it into smaller containers to refreeze. The other thing is it makes a lot of sense when it comes to the cost per bottle. You'll notice that the more you get, the less per bottle it is. For instance, if you're getting the bottles, they're $55 a piece, unless you get 4 at a time. Then there's a discount built in. Why is that? The styrofoam actually costs us the same price, whether it's 2 bottles or 4 bottles. It's actually like a 25 cents difference. It's kind of insignificant going from 2 bottles to 4 bottles on the styrofoam cost. So we pass that savings on to you when you're getting the bottles. The other thing you'll notice is the larger your order, it might cost, especially if you're in a nearby bordering state, maybe it's $14 for getting 2 bottles shipped to you, but $18 for getting 4 bottles shipped. So your cost per bottle for postage also drops. But when you get the bucket, you're getting a much bigger discount because there's no styrofoam at all. We don't need the hollow space in the warehouse. We can just pack it up and ship it. You're saving literally about $24 per bottle off the cost of the bottle. And because you're getting a larger amount, your cost per bottle for postage comes down as well. The overall postage cost goes up, but it goes up less the more you get. So that's why the bucket makes the most sense, and there's really no bottlenecks in our company for shipping buckets of aloe. So good stuff. Let's see. Are you going to run out again? Probably. However, not in a panic way, meaning we strategize our shipments so that as our freezer is getting near empty, we get the next container ordered. We want to empty out our freezer for maybe a couple of days. It's nice to put it in defrost mode and just get it all tuned up again before maxing it out again. So for that reason, it makes sense for us to run out about, well, a freight container probably lasts us about 3 months. Not this first one. This first one's going to go much quicker because everyone's been out. It could be out in 1 month instead of 3 months, probably. So there will probably be maybe a week's delay between running out and getting the next freight container in so that we can defrost our freezer, clean it up, and make room for the next freight container. But it won't be anything like what just happened where we're out for 6 months. Are you going to raise the price? A lot of people have asked us about the price. I don't think we're going to have to. Some of our costs have gone up, but at the same time as we're doing more business, other costs are going down. As an example, our cost for shipping a freight container, over the past few years, the postage used to be around $3,000 maybe 5 years ago. Now that same postage, the cost for moving the container is closer to $10,000. Within like 5 years, it's literally more than 3 times the cost. However, everything else that we're buying in bigger bulk, like the supplies for filling, the containers and the boxes and everything else that we're buying in larger quantities, helps us lower the price on those things to help balance the costs a little bit. The first 10 years we were in business, we did not raise the costs. We did maybe require more bottles per order to keep the price competitive. That was one strategy that we were able to maintain the price per bottle. After about 10 years, I'm not a very smart business person, but I started noticing that it looked like our numbers were maybe going backwards a little. As the money came in, it just kept going out as fast as it came in. And this is probably 3 or 4 years ago. And I started realizing that after a few months, it's like, wow, our company is not making money and maybe even going a little backwards. And I had to adjust the prices. I think we're going to be in good shape. I'm not one of those super great numbers guys. I would get kicked off Shark Tank for not knowing my numbers. But eventually I'll get to the point where I feel it and say, yeah, something's not right. And if I have to, I will. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. This comes up too, Priscilla. I ordered for the first time, not realizing you mail out on Monday. Is it possible to cancel the order or change the address at this point? Yeah. Not a problem at all. We can make changes, cancels, redos. Typically, we ship on Mondays because the postage to most areas stops on Sundays and in other areas on Saturdays and Sundays. So today being a Friday, if I sent a package out, even if it was in a one-day delivery zone, 1 day is one actual shipping day, which means Saturday and Sunday it doesn't move, so it gets delivered on Monday. If you're in a 2-day delivery zone and I shipped it today on Friday, it would get delivered on Tuesday. So you see the problem. That's why we don't ship over the weekends. Sometimes we do. We found out there's places in Texas that actually deliver on Sundays. So we ship some out on Thursday, testing the Sunday delivery. We're testing it. We're going to see if it works. But that's our main issue while we're mostly shipping on Mondays and Tuesdays at the beginnings of the week because of the frozen nature of our products. Unless you're ordering powdered goods and some of the dry products and things that don't require refrigeration.
You enjoying the show thus far? One of the many health secrets that we have covered on the show is all around aloe vera, specifically drinking raw aloe vera. Our aloe vera has helped our customers effectively heal their gut, increase their intestine health, lower inflammation in the body, eliminate and/or decrease acid reflux, have glowing skin and hair, and so much more. Now, as a frequent member of our audience, you will be exposed to exclusive specials and coupon codes for the awesome products manufactured by Haley Nutrition. That's right, for simply being awesome and tuning in, you can get a mini discount to help you optimize and better your health. To see how we can help and support you on your health journey, tune into the episodes and listen for coupon codes that you can use at www.haleynutrition.com before you make your orders of raw aloe vera. Once again, it's www.haleynutrition.com. Now, back to the show.
This was a question that came up. Is it still the Stockton variety? Yes, it is. That's one of the things I absolutely required and looked for and spoke to our farmer about. The Stockton variety, I do want to address something else too, because another question that's what's so special about your aloe. And yeah, Rodney Stockton made a big deal about the variety of aloe. And from his studies, it worked better than other varieties. I personally don't think that's the secret sauce. However, we're maintaining the fields as the Stockton variety. Our previous farmer in the Dominican Republic, a lot of people said, well, isn't it grown in Homestead? It was until 1996. But Rodney Stockton, when the Homestead farms got wiped out in Hurricane Andrew in 1996, he worked with Dominican Republic, took the plants to him, and I verified this with the farmer. And he kind of said, well, yeah, Rodney said that they were better plants, so we gradually replaced our entire fields with this variety just because he said so. And as they're cleaning their fields, they pull the extra pups out to keep the mother plants nice and big, and they actually started shipping them to other farms. So not every farm has the Stockton variety. They were even shipping them to, for a while, my understanding is they were supplying Lowe's in the United States. And yes, I did see the Stockton variety at Lowe's. I've also seen other varieties at Lowe's. So it's not always going to be the Stockton variety. But the Stockton variety is very prevalent in the United States. I still don't think that's the secret sauce for our aloe vera. You see, I think the secret sauce is the nutrient, the mucopolysaccharide. Poly means many, saccharide means sugar, and people freak out when they find out that aloe vera is actually many sugars, the mucopolysaccharide, a very complex structure of sugars. But the primary sugar molecule is mannose, and mannose is not like glucose. Bacteria don't eat it up and love it. In fact, it actually lowers your blood sugar levels. It doesn't raise them. Cancer cells bind to that mannose molecule but can't use them for energy, so it kind of starves them because it's kind of like they have their mouth full of mannose and they can't spit it out to eat the glucose. So it kind of starves the cancer cells, one of the ways that it helps people fight cancer. So yes, it is many sugars and it's a mucopolysaccharide, and I think that's the secret sauce. Well, don't other brands have mucopolysaccharides? One of the brands even said on their website there's no mucopolysaccharides in our aloe vera, even though it said 100% aloe vera. Why is that? Aloe vera is very rich in enzymes, and enzymes digest. For instance, amylase breaks down starches. And it will essentially consume those mucopolysaccharides, breaking them down to the simple sugars. Now, you can slow that down with refrigeration or slow it down even more by freezing it. The enzymes and the breakdown of the mucopolysaccharides still happens when frozen, but even after freezing for a year, there's still mucopolysaccharides present. But that's our primary reason for saying consume your aloe in 7 to 10 days once it's been refrigerated. Eventually, you'll notice it splashes like water after maybe a few weeks or 4 weeks or something like that. And by then, you might also have some bacterial growth. So it's changing, becoming less of the reason why you got it. That's also why you can melt it. You can put it into smaller containers and refreeze them, take them out and melt them again and put them into even smaller containers and refreeze them. It's really the amount of time that it has been melted that is causing the problem, the breakdown of the mucopolysaccharides. Now, the best demonstration I ever got of how these enzymes break down the foods or digest them, it was about 25 years ago. Kudos to Dr. Andrea Hazim in one of her nutrition classes that I sat in. It's funny, she learned this by mistake. It was an accident. She was trying to sneak powdered fruits and vegetables into her kids' diets, and she thought it would be wise to open up the fruit and vegetable capsules and sprinkle it on their oatmeal. She did that, and she watched the oatmeal that she had just made them liquefy in the next few minutes right in the bowl. And she realized the enzymes were breaking down the starches. And in that process, I think the way it works is you break the molecule off, and then you give a hydrogen off on one side and an OH on the other, and you're making water, liquefying by breaking down the starches. That's the enzymes things. And that's when you eat your food, and that's why you chew your food. You're releasing enzymes so that they can go to work digesting the things that you ate to prepare them for the consumption of your microbiome. So aloe vera has enzymes in it. And yes, once we grind it and turn it into something you can drink, the enzymes are released and they go to work breaking down the molecules. Unless it's kept frozen. And it still breaks down when it's frozen, just a lot slower. So I think that's the secret sauce. It's not the Stockton variety, but it's the mucopolysaccharides, which, as far as I know, we're the only brand, the only drink of aloe vera that still has mucopolysaccharides intact. I don't know of any other. There was another brand that was selling raw frozen aloe vera, and it's kind of funny because they kept it at the same off-site storage facility that we did. We now keep it on-site. We have our own large drive-in freezers here where the forklift can go in and out. But we used to go and they'd forklift out of the freezer and drop it in a truck that we'd bring back to our smaller freezers. That's how we did it in the past as we were growing. And the other brand that was competing with us, that kind of broke off of Rodney Stockton's company and decided to open up their own frozen aloe company, they were selling the same frozen aloe from the same harvest for over 5 years. They're out of business now, but if you had purchased from them in the end, in their last days, you were buying aloe that was harvested 5 years earlier and kept frozen that whole time. I should have went to prison for that, but it is what it is. All right. Stockton variety. What else do we have here? Oh, this comes up all the time. And there's a question, and I'm going to be calling somebody soon about answering this exact same question for their specific condition. Can aloe vera help with, and it doesn't matter what comes after that, whether it's IBS, acid reflux, irritable bowel syndrome, lichen planus, eczema, psoriasis. The question comes in every form very, very frequently. Can aloe vera help with this? And I don't like the question because it's kind of like diagnosis dependent, and aloe vera does not treat anything, but it can help your body work better. Now, with any condition, there's two sides to the equation. There's what's causing the problem. We call that causation. And what can I do to treat it? And that's a medical approach. What I'm trying to say is you want to change as many things in your life that are bad and turn them into good. Now you don't even need to diagnose it because your body's working more like it's supposed to. And yeah, aloe can be a very big part of that in many, many ways, of not only helping heal your gut and strengthening your immune system, but even just by replacing the other things that would be doing damage to your body. We want to make as many changes to our diet, to our thought processes, to our sleep patterns. We want to get rid of stress in our life. Nutrition is really easy to make good, healthy changes, and there's a lot of healthful benefits with aloe vera. So with that, it could probably help with pretty much anything. But I'm always cautious because Dr. Sid Williams wrote a book, When is a Potato a Pill? The concept was when you're taking it specifically to treat a certain symptom, it's no different than the medical approach, because now you're just treating symptoms. For instance, can it help with constipation? Yeah. Some people have diarrhea, it makes them more normal, more firm. Some people have constipation and it loosens them up, it makes them more normal. And if you're doing that only for that particular benefit, well, now you're taking a medical approach, but you're not getting rid of the cause, that whatever was causing that, chronic dehydration causing constipation, or eating too much of a certain food that causes constipation. So I don't like the medical approach. That's kind of why I don't like that question. But yes, we see significant benefits with a lot of conditions. It's just a medical approach when you're consuming something for the effect rather than for the benefit of everything that comes with it. This came up a lot of times. Why isn't the website taking my credit card? The website's not broke. Some banks have stricter rules and they don't let certain merchant processors process cards from that particular bank, as an example. On our website, there's 3 credit card processing options. If the first one doesn't work, it's like they're called radio buttons on a website. There's the default one, and I think the one below it is another merchant processor called PayEasy, and then I think the third one is the PayPal merchant processor. So if one doesn't work, just try another one, because a lot of times your bank will actually have a problem with a particular merchant processor. All of our merchant processors are solid. PayPal's huge and very, very solid. Bank of America is one that we use. That's the one that's going through the PayEasy gateway. The other one is Woo Payments. Here's the other question. Why can't I order to be shipped to Canada? We did answer that earlier in the broadcast, but the quick summary is that we had a challenge with it in our first attempt with our new shipper, FedEx. So we have to work out the problems to make sure that aloe clears customs faster. And until we figure out how to make that happen, we have to have it turned off. It has nothing to do with the fact that the Florida Panthers, my team, is playing Edmonton in the Stanley Cup Finals. All right. Oh, Stephanie had sent an email asking us to address the concern about toxicity of aloe vera when taken internally, specifically liver toxicity if taken in excess, and what is excess. All right. This is a question that comes up often over the years. And medical doctors are even taught that aloe vera causes cancer. Yeah. There's different parts of the aloe vera plant. There's the inner leaf and there's the outer leaf. Years ago, people were using the outer leaf, the irritant portion of the aloe vera plant. They were using it and even turning it into capsules that could be taken as a natural laxative. You see the problem with that. 2 parts of the plant. There's the internal gel, which is the healing, calming part that strengthens your immune system. And there's the outer part. And the outer parts of, fruits and vegetables and seeds, they generally have phytochemicals in it that protect it from mold, fungus, predators, things that are usually very bitter. So that if something bites into it, it doesn't like it, and it protects that particular fruit or nut or seed or whatever it is. In the aloe vera plant, that outer chemical, aloin, it's an anthraquinone. It's similar to sap from other, trees and things that they also call it a latex. It's an irritant. It's the part you do not want. And from everything we can see, that causes either liver toxicity or kidney toxicity. We're tracing it back to a particular powdered aloe that came from the outer leaf, and it was even a specific brand years ago. Haven't seen anything recent there, but it all seems to be connected to the outer leaf extract. Not even a whole leaf product, not even something that was outer leaf and inner leaf, but outer leaf only. Now, our product is inner leaf, and when it comes to the outer leaf portions, it might have 2 parts per million of the outer leaf in it. Very, very minimal. We did the math, we calculated it, and you'd have to drink something like 600 gallons of our aloe in a day to exceed the FDA, warnings when it comes to the consumption of that. So it's not going to happen with our product. Now, they also did research, and they called this aloe vera research, where they took outer leaf extract and they gave it to rats, and the cells in their intestinal linings that make mucus, which of course more mucus to protect it from the irritant, those cells had to grow to make more mucus. And at some point we call that adaptive change cancer, because the cells were growing rapidly so they can make more mucus to protect from the outer leaf irritant. That research was done with the outer leaf only, not even with whole leaf. And remember, we're inner leaf only. When you go to the store and look at other brands of aloe, a lot of them will be whole leaf, which means it has inner and outer, and some brands will be inner leaf only. We are inner leaf only. Some brands actually have both. There's one brand that makes a inner leaf and a whole leaf product. They actually have a few different versions. One of them is called a gel. And what does that mean? Well, the mucopolysaccharides are all broken down, so it splashes like water, but they added a thickening agent. They added carrageenan to it, and on the label it tells you a thickening agent. So they thickened it up to make you think it's still a gel. It's not. It's the broken down part that had a thickener added to it to make it mimic gel. As far as I know, we're the only ones that actually have aloe vera gel. So, Stephanie, we're not concerned about the toxicity of it because the excess would be more than 600 gallons in a day. And you'll drown first. What can I order from Canada? We got that already. I think I addressed I forgot to ask for the free cream. Yes, we're going to include one for everyone that forgot to ask for the free cream. Now, let me go to the email and see what other questions may have come in that I haven't added. Yes, okay, let's see. Which shipping should I choose? Leslie asking for California. Our cart should give you many options, and Leslie, you're addressing the flat rate option. Why is there a flat rate option? That's actually a fail-safe. So what you should choose, if you want it in one day, that's going to be pretty expensive. Most people can let it melt a little bit more than that, and they don't mind a 2-day delivery, or even a 3-day delivery is fine. If you see the flat rate option as being the cheapest option for your frozen aloe, choose it. We're going to make sure it gets to you in 3 days, and if your postage is more, we're going to pay the difference. So that flat rate is kind of like an additional option, kind of a fail-safe, because the shipper's API, the thing that gives us our negotiated rates with them, isn't always 100%. Sometimes it fails to add our discounts that we've negotiated with them, so it comes out very, very expensive. And then the flat rate option is there as a cheaper option. In other cases, too, we have the flat rate option there just because we want to pay a portion of your postage. There's some places that are just too ridiculously expensive, and it's almost getting unfair just because you live there. Why should you have to pay so much? So when you place your order, either go with the cheapest option, or if you want it there faster, choose one of the faster options, but we'll make sure it gets to you in 3 days. During the summertime, that's going to mean it shows up mostly melted on 3 days shipments, but still cold. That's our guarantee, that it's still cold when you get it. If it goes 4 days during the summertime, we'll probably be reshipping. Should I choose a 3-day non-weekend? Yeah, and then 3-day non-weekend means that, let's say you pay for like overnight delivery, overnight non-weekend. Well, we're not going to ship it on Friday. That means that we'll wait till Monday and then you'll get it on Tuesday. So you're not really getting it in one day unless you order it on Monday and we ship it Monday and you get it on Tuesday. That's why we have those words non-weekend in there, because most express services stop during the weekend. Okay. Here's a few more questions in the chat. Are we going to be notified when we start shipping to Canada? Probably. I'm going to call a few people that are in my email box regarding that. But we'll probably include a little blurb on a group email. The very last batch before you ran out had a slightly bitter taste. This is a funny question. Because I don't really have an answer to it, meaning we used to even do trade shows. And we'd have a bottle of aloe there for someone to taste, like taste testing. And someone would say, oh, this is delicious. And then the next person, we pour from the exact same bottle and they go, oh, it's so bitter. And the first person will look at him with like a confused look. It's not bitter at all. So we have realized that people taste different things. And we also have perceived that sometimes our aloe is more bitter than other times. Now, here's my explanation. We have tested for the outer leaf aloin concentration. And our worst test ever was 6 parts per million. Very, very low. But imagine that this stuff is so bitter, it's kind of like chlorine in your tap water or in a swimming pool. They might give you water with 1.5 parts per million chlorine, and you can barely smell it or taste it. Or in the swimming pool, you don't even notice it's in there. But if it just goes up to 3 parts per million, it starts getting very, very strong. And if you're in a swimming pool that's 5 or 6 parts per million, your eyes are burning. And that's kind of how it is with the bitterness, which is really just how good of a job are we filleting the aloe leaves and how much of the outer leaf got into it. So 6 parts per million, our worst test ever, is really, really clean and very, very good. But it's going to be much, much more bitter than the 1 to 2 parts per million. So that's my best answer for that. And, really, it's every bit as good for you, and the bitterness isn't enough to change how it's not going to have a laxative effect or anything like that. So be good about it. If you're not comfortable with it or you want to get rid of the bitterness, a drop or two of stevia, the liquid stevia, goes a long ways, and stevia is actually good for you. I emailed your order. Company has been around a long time. I'm sure you will maneuver around all the shipping challenges right now. Yes, we will. And wait, let me see what this says. It says, and God will make your group stronger in the end. Becky, I so agree with you. I completely agree with you. When we went through this challenge, I had a piece about it from the beginning. I did not expect the challenge to last this long. And I kind of joked about it a little bit. God has a sense of humor. But we always knew that it was for our benefit. And we were confused on the why we had so many different challenges. And even when we were finally coming to have aloe available, why was there a holiday? And why did I have jury duty? Why did my website break? Why did our negotiated rates with FedEx end on that day? And everything just pushing it another day, until we're now going into the whole next week again. It was comical. God has a sense of humor, but yes, he's making us stronger. And we're okay with the challenges. Do you plan to offer a concentrated powder version at some point in the future? On our website, you will notice that there is a brand by Dr. Lewis, and it's a brain formula. On that particular product page, you'll notice an interview, a podcast where I talked with Dr. Lewis about his product. I had actually found him years ago. I think it was 2014 when I, saw this guy that was doing research on aloe vera, and I was very interested. And I went down and met with him at the University of Miami where he was working, doing this research. And he had some remarkable results, which are talked about on the podcast, with a multi-nutrient product, which was powdered aloe vera with a few other things like, flax and some different other food type stuff. And real good results in actually reversing Alzheimer's. Now, yes, we should get the same kind of results with our liquid aloe, but he had that great powdered product, and we have it available on our website, or you can get it from him, Dr. Lewis Nutrition. The problem with the powders, and he kind of has the same issue, he has to have other things in it. You can only have about 15% of aloe powder. It's funny, here's on my desk, I'm going to hold it up. Here's a sample from a company that actually makes aloe powder. And, they dehydrate the aloe, and we could do this. Now, as soon as I open up this packet, the humidity from the air is going to get into it and turn it into a rock. And that's why you can only have about 15% of the aloe in it, and everything else has to be more dry type powders, such as powdered fruits and vegetables or some kind of dry carrier powder. I actually purchased a 1 ounce, very tiny bottle from a very well-known person. I'll say, I was tempted to say his name. A lot of people would know who it is. But he had little 1 ounce bottles of aloe vera powder, and I saw it, and I was like, how could he have pure aloe powder? It doesn't make sense. Let me see what he's doing. So I ordered a 1 ounce powder for $24.95, and it came to me, and I opened it up, and inside that jar was a aloe vera rock, which is what I expected. And I don't know if anyone actually got powder, and I don't know if he realized that's what they were going to get. I was pretty confident of it, and I really just bought it to see. That's the problem with aloe vera powders. Can they be beneficial? Sure. Do they have mucopolysaccharides? I don't know. I don't know if they've been completely enzymatically broke down or if somehow it's stabilized in the powder form. I do know that you actually have to have a lot of powder to equal a glass of aloe vera. So that's the challenge. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe. During the month of June 2025, get $10 off your purchase of $100 or more at HaleyNutrition.com. The coupon code is June 2025. That's JUNE2025. You can use this coupon with on sale and already discounted bundled items. Enjoy the rest of the show. Next question. I forgot to ask for the aloe cream. Don't worry, everyone's going to get the aloe cream. And let's see, Dr. Haley, do you plan to offer concentrated Liquadri? What is that? Liquadri is the only place on the planet that has the technology to make truly raw aloe powder without any of the objections you mentioned. I'll check that out. I'll look into it. What I do know, though, is the aloe vera, it has a very strong affinity for humidity. So it kind of sucks the humidity out of the air. I don't know how someone would overcome that with my organic chemistry knowledge. I'd love to know more. And if someone would email me info@aloe1.com, those details, I'll contact them and find out more about it and see if it's a possibility. It would be shocking if it's actually possible to go more than 10 to 15% of aloe in a powder. I think it would be great to have a nice fruit and vegetable powder with more aloe powder in there. We have the Aya Greens, which has some aloe powder in it, but it's a very small amount for the challenges that we have. Okay, let's see. What else do I have in my inbox? Okay. Does the mannose of aloe contain mannose 6-phosphate? Burris, good question. For some reason, I'm not remembering all the different mannose isomers, but I'm not sure on that one. Crucial carbohydrate structure. So the tag liposomal enzyme directing. Yeah, I don't know. I would have to research that. I know that one of the best sources, the best scientific source for aloe vera research and questions like that is the International Aloe Science Council, or IASC.org. And that would be the place for me to go and find out the answer to that question. Regarding aloe in bottles, do you have to thaw the aloe and then put in bottles and then refreeze it? Yes, that's the best thing that you can do if you're going to have it in your refrigerator for more than 7 to 10 days. Just melt it, put it into smaller containers, and refreeze them to take out as necessary. I never got an email saying that you have aloe, and I've been on your list. I definitely sent one out to everybody. There were some people that unsubscribed. So my email program wouldn't allow the import of those emails to send the particular notice. So I sent them individual notices. I made sure everyone got the email, but I can't control whether or not it goes to your spam. I suspect that's what happened. Will you be sending out a recording of the call? Yeah, sure. I'll make sure that there's a little blurb with a link to this recording. Can I get it in Ireland yet? No. The world's getting smaller someday. I'm interested. Couldn't get through. Can you call me? Yeah, Nick. Our phone was lit up like crazy, and we have not been able to answer it. We cannot keep up. But yes, Dr. Nick, you'll be getting a call. And here's another one. Can you call me? Yeah, people that can't get through. All right. Now I think we're all caught up. Thank you for the great information. Thank you, Linda. All right. Many do not give so much information. You still give us the bottles with the orders. When people get their first order, they'll usually get a little extra empty bottle. And that's really a teacher to tell you it's okay to pour into smaller bottles. First-time customers will also get a sample bottle with a sample of our protein and a sample of our greens in it. And you can try those samples and then rinse out those bottles and use those to pour aloe into. But for future orders, we usually don't send any additional empty bottles, nor do we sell the empty bottles on our website anymore because people used to buy so many of them. We couldn't keep them in stock, and we just don't have the space for storing empty bottles. So I know you talked about a shortage of jugs. If I order the bucket, can I get the 9 empty jugs? Yes. We did just get 1,200 empty bottles delivered to us this morning. So we're good on, and I adjusted the quantities on our website of buckets available with bottles. All right. Well, that was fun. I want to thank everyone for joining us on this call. Be sure to leave it up on the YouTube channel. Oh, you know what? Thanks everyone else that also subscribed to me on this particular channel and pushing me over 1,000 subscribers, which really opens up a lot more benefits on the YouTube channel, a lot more access to other little, sweet things that they do for you. More possibilities on the YouTube channel because I finally crossed the 1,000 mark. Thank you very, very much. Chris Beats Cancer shared this product in his module. Yeah, I remember meeting Chris years ago at the Annie Appleseed Foundation. And at the time, we were a vendor there. We don't do the vending booths anymore because we just haven't had the time to travel and do those things anymore. But in this case, I think he was a speaker there. And he saw our booth and he said, I used aloe when I was getting well from cancer. And, he poured him some and he drank it. He said, but after drinking yours, I don't know if I've ever really drank aloe before. And that is true. When you have ours and then go to other brands, it certainly seems that way, like you've never really had real aloe vera. And there's a reason for that. We still have the mucopolysaccharides intact. But Chris, you know what I like about him? He's the real deal. And he interviewed me years and years ago. And we got to a point where he asked me a question that he had asked me in the past or something like that. I forget, it was probably 6 or 7 years ago. So I don't really remember exactly. Maybe I asked him a question. But he said something like, well, I'll pretend that we haven't talked about this before, just for the sake of giving the answer. And it was almost like, it would be too dishonest of him to answer it again without letting everyone know that I already knew the answer or he already knew the answer, whichever one, I forget who was asking who. He is so straight and narrow that it was necessary for him to make that point. That's the kind of guy he is. He's very, this is who I am, and hides nothing, very, very transparent. He won't get behind anything he doesn't believe in. He's not motivated by money. Just a great, great guy. So absolutely love him. Please advise on how long you suggest that one continues to use their empty bottles. It depends on how well you take care of them, for one. But a good rule of thumb, a year is a pretty good, duration. You could probably go longer than that too. We recommend that you maintain them, believe it or not, by rinsing them really, really good. And then after a couple rinses and shakes, fill them up with the bad water, with your municipal water, with the city water that has chlorine in it, the stuff you won't drink, to prevent anything from growing. That way, even if you had aloe that kind of lodged in the handle, it'll soak and swell up in there, and the chlorine will keep anything from growing in it. And then before you reuse that same bottle, you can dump it all out, give it another rinse, put in a little water, give it the cap on, shake it, dump it out, and ready to go again. The question is the plastic drying and cracking and leaching, which is going to bring up a whole other point about plastics. The problem with plastics is not plastic bottles that are refrigerated. It's plastic bottles that you're buying your water in. This is where it gets the really bad rap. And the reason is, and if you ever go to YouTube and look at a video on how they make bottled water, they start with a little piece of plastic that's like a little thimble, like the size of the tip of your pinky. And they blow it up really quick, and then a machine kind of flips it up, and they shoot some water into it, and it drops out, and then they spin it back over, and they fill it up, cap it, and then that goes onto, into a package of water bottles that goes onto a pallet, and then that goes onto a truck that gets taken to the supermarket. The problem with those bottles, they never really had a chance to fully cure and gas off. The gas off, that's kind of like as it's curing, it gives off plastic stuff. But they're essentially giving it just the quick rinse, flipping it and filling it, and then all of those loose chemicals end up in the water. That's where the bad rap from plastics comes. Now, here's something else that a lot of people don't know about plastics. Yes, you can use glass bottles, but if you freeze and you don't have good glass bottles, they shatter. And aloe seems to expand and push and is stronger than freezing water. So It doesn't work out well for a lot of people, and they're glad that we told them to use plastic. Cold or freezing, the molecular activity of the plastic slows down. Here's what a lot of people don't know. You can buy a juice product in a glass jar and think you've done well. But chances are, and I happen to know this for all the other brands of aloe that pasteurize them, their product, see, there's only a handful of farmers producing aloe vera. And it's like this too, whether it's orange juice, there's only a handful of farmers producing orange juice, even though there's hundreds of different labels out there, but they're coming from only a handful of farmers. So the aloe farmers are producing all of this aloe, including the one that we're getting it from now. They have a different process for their other customers. We have our process installed on their farm for us. Our aloe does not get pasteurized. But all the other farmers, they're pasteurizing the aloe and then putting it either into the big 55-gallon drums or the huge, like I think they're 300 or 500-gallon IBC, International Beverage containers, IBC containers. Those are plastic containers. Or the drums that have they're foil bags on the outside with a plastic lining on the inside. And they hot fill the bags. So they'll actually heat the aloe up to like 160, 170 degrees and then put them into the plastic at that temperature. And then the other aloe brands buy those big containers of aloe and then they reprocess it. They don't filter out the plastics from it being 170 in plastic. They just reprocess it, add their own preservatives, their own flavors, or whatever they're going to do to it. And then they put it in their bottles. Some of them put it in glass, not telling you it was already in plastic at 170 degrees. Our aloe, it starts at the field temperature, so it might be 90 degrees. It goes through the grinder and it gets turned into a liquid and then goes through a chiller. Now, this particular harvest that people are getting from us right now has not gone through the chiller process yet. We did something else instead, and that was as we filled the containers, we put it into spread out into refrigerated, and we had the freezer container at the same time. We had to spread it out because you can't put so much warm liquid all in one freezer at a time and expect it to get to temperature. We were able to accomplish what we needed to using multiple locations to get it to temperature quickly. But we'll run it through a chiller, getting it down to about 50 degrees, and then put it into the containers very, very cold, and then they go into the freezer. So they're being cold filled into the plastic containers before going into the freezer. In the case of this particular recent harvest, it went in at, well, ambient temperature. So you come out of the fields at, say, 90 degrees, and then in the warehouse, and maybe it's 80 degrees in that. So they went into the containers probably around closer to 80 degrees this time, and then placed into the either directly refrigerator for a portion of time, and then right into the freezer. But you're not having hot in plastic. All right, I know I missed a couple other questions. Weird question, but I live in a short-term rental community in Kissimmee by Disney, and we don't get mail here. No, we do not ship to post office boxes because what ends up happening with the post office box is sometimes our package doesn't even fit in it. And then you have to get it from the person behind the counter, but they close at 5 and you can't get it, and then it's held to the next day. There's too much spoilage with the post office boxes, so we do not ship to them. And let's see, checking the emails. For me to add shipping fee. No, Pam, we can't send it out today. So why? I wish we could. Would it be possible to place an X-type divider in the buckets while being filled? You could use 2 flat pieces with slots that would, this would allow separating the 4 pieces. Oh, and allow you to thaw one at a, interesting. I love concepts like that. And the wheels are turning. So when someone asks me a question like this, could you possibly fill the bucket and split it up so that we can only thaw smaller portions? There probably are. Yeah, we probably could put multiple bags in a bucket, but then we're kind of defeating the purpose. I'll give it some thought. I love ideas, and that might not be the perfect concept right there, but it might develop into the perfect concept. So thank you for the thoughts. All right, I think we're done. It's been fun. We've been here an hour. Thank you, everybody. If you still have questions, send them to the email, and I'll probably chop this up into answers and send them out to everyone that asks the various questions. So it's been helpful doing this time. Thank you, everybody.
I hope you enjoyed that episode today on The Dr. Haley Show. Make sure to hit subscribe on whichever platform you are listening to this. If this episode made you think of someone, go ahead, take a screenshot, and share this exact episode with them. You can catch the show notes for this episode on www.drhaley.com. If you want to geek out with Dr. Michael Haley on other radical health topics, be sure to check out his YouTube channel, where he posts exclusive video content. All the details are at www.drhaley.com, and we can't wait to hang out with you on the next episode.